Why do we cling to routines and yet feel restless when things stay the same? Why does predictability bring peace, but also boredom? And what happens when our quest for recognition gets tangled up in perfectionism or burnout? Today, we're exploring the paradoxes at the core of being human and how understanding them might be the key to making better choices.
Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. We are your hosts, Eric Orton.
And I'm Emily Orton.
And here we talk about personal growth and sailing. In 2014, we moved aboard a fixer-upper sailboat and bootstrapped a year sailing with our 5 kids, and it changed our lives forever.
We tell the whole story in our memoir, our book, 7 at Sea. On this podcast, we want to help you go from fear to freedom, one adventure at a time. Welcome back to the What Could Go Right podcast. We are talking about paradoxes today because we do need some things to stay the same, but we also need variety. We're looking at 6 core needs that humans have. And this is reminding me of in the past 18 months when we started exploring some new places to sail where we hadn't sailed before. We kind of kicked this off by saying, hey, we're going to change up the trips a little. We're not doing coaching on the trips. We're just going to teach you about sailing and take you to some beautiful places and let you have your own life-changing experience without our transformative input. And I want to go to some new places where we haven't been. And you started going to a lot of new places. So tell me about the upside of that variety for you. And then we can talk about maybe the tension on the paradox.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think I'll just say that I was pretty excited about these new places because it's, some of the reason I love to do these trips is I just get to go out and do something that I love. And it makes it easier from a financial standpoint, to be honest, for me to go when everyone's chipping in. And
when you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
There we go.
I mean, they do say that.
And also, these are just places, I've wanted to check out. I'd never been to the Sea of Cortez. I'd never been to Sardinia, Italy. We'd been to Greece, but I wanted to go back and sail some new parts of it. I'd never been to St. Lucia. We did some trips there.
And Thailand was the first time to Asia.
Yeah.
Like Asia, any part of Asia.
Yeah. So it just, for me, it was, we kind of tongue in cheek joke about the gift of anticipation in our family, that once you book a trip or once you commit to something, or that it's coming, whether it's a sailing trip or I don't know what other things are there in life to look forward to.
Even if it's going to be, hey, we're going to visit friends this weekend, or we're going to be doing a race, or I'm thinking of all the different things. We're going to see our grandson, or
or just that the book I have on hold at the library becomes available on this date. Whatever it is, once you have it on your calendar, you get to enjoy it between then and when it actually happens. And so I got to experience the joy of anticipation for a lot of these trips. I looked forward to each of them for many months at the same time. And I don't know if we want to go there too soon, but
you're ready to talk about kind of when you have maybe too much variety.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say too much, but for me, there's also a little bit of stress involved because I feel the responsibility as the group leader, as the captain, to make sure that we all have a great experience. And especially when I'm going into a place that I don't know, I do feel a little bit of stress. And so whenever I go back to a place that I'm very familiar with, it's sort of a trade-off between I don't have as much anticipation because I know a lot of what to expect, but also my stress goes down because I know what to expect. I'm not worried about, how do the ferries work? Where are we going to get the groceries? What's the marina going to be like? What are some places we might want to sail to? All those become much more known to me. And so I don't have as much to anticipate in terms of newness for me, but I also have less stress because I have a lot of questions already answered.
Yeah, I was thinking about, you told me you were on this one trip and you realized that there were too many new things. Too many new things were happening by always going to new places and having everything be new. And so you started recognizing, hey, it's good for me to have some anchoring things, like I'm just going to go to this place that serves food that's familiar to me. Because so many other things are new. The marina's new, the boat is new, the people are new that I'm taking, and the people are new that I'm working with at this marina, and maybe the language is different or whatever. And you're like, I'm going to have like a McDonald's hamburger, right? And you think, why would you go to a foreign country and then eat McDonald's? That's why. That's why you would do it, because you're like, 98% of what's happening right now is new to me. I'm going to do one familiar thing that just kind of is an anchor and then lets me move forward in this new space.
Yeah, I forget which trip was right before it. I think we might have done the speaking on the cruise ship, which was also new for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I was going to the Bahamas, and I got to the Bahamas, and I've been there before. It's not a new destination for us, but I was like, I'm gonna make sure I'm comfortable. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna stay at a Marriott hotel. I'm not gonna get an Airbnb. It's just like somebody's gonna be in charge of everything. There's always gonna be somebody at the check-in counter. I don't have to worry about coordinating with anybody. It's just going to be easy.
Yeah.
There's going to be a pool. There's going to be breakfast provided. I don't have to figure out any of that. I'm just going to check in and check out.
If I forget anything, I can get it at concierge. I don't have to go find a shop.
Yeah. And then on the way from the airport to my hotel, I stopped and got a chicken sandwich at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, there you go.
And then the next day, I went out for breakfast, and I got another chicken sandwich at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was like, I just want familiar, because I've been on the go so much to so many new places, like you say, with new people, which I love, and doing new things like we were speaking on this ship. But I just needed some familiarity and some root. I needed some, I don't want to say boring routine, but I just needed some routine to keep my stress levels down.
Because we don't go get chicken sandwiches here very much, but that was like, hey, this is familiar. I know exactly what to expect. I know what I'm going to get when I ask for this. And so that's what made it feel familiar.
Yeah. And when I travel, I 9 times out of 10 prefer to stay at an Airbnb, just because they're interesting. You're in a community. You're not just tucked away in a hotel or a resort. But I was like, I just need I just need predictable. That's what I need.
So that's just an interesting point about knowing yourself and knowing what ratio of familiar, or what we might call certainty, to variety ratio you need. And sometimes we get in a situation where we've had the certainty and everything is dialed in, and we're what our friend Whitney Johnson in her book Smart Growth calls being at the top of an S curve of learning, where everything is actually pretty predictable and pretty easy and pretty certain what's going to happen. Yes, little problems will keep coming up, but you kind of know what they are and you know how to solve them. And it starts to get a little boring. And that's when you feel the itch to learn something new and you want a little more variety. And only you can really know what that ratio is going to be for you in different seasons, and you'll have to explore a little bit. But I remember after our nearly a year on a sailboat with our family of with 5 kids, and just a little, I guess, teaser out there was an evening where we had some trouble with the boat starting to sink. Anyway, I was pretty stressed out about it. And when we finally got home to our apartment in New York City, and really moved back in, brought in all our laundry, just we're back in our own space, I stopped being a disruption junkie. I stopped seeking out new growth opportunities. I just went to the library and checked out picture books on cozy homes. I didn't read any of the words, and I just sat on my couch and I was like, okay, there's been so much new and so much stretch and so much growth that it's time for me to really push up, the volume or the setting on certainty and what feels really comfortable to me. And that was the ratio for a while until I was ready to move back into looking for growth opportunities again and variety again.
And I think in the spirit of trying to universalize this, it doesn't always have to be about travel and being in a foreign place or in a foreign setting. Um, I guess maybe this is a kind of travel, but when we moved here to this house where we are now, I feel like this was a big upheaval for us. We're pretty nomadic, and so being on the go is not a big deal. But we bought this house, and it's 120 years old. We're tearing it apart. We're ripping out carpet. We're painting walls. We're removing. We're like the first time. I mean,
Removing built-in stuff.
going to the junkyard, or I guess the landfill, the first time was kind of a little stressful, but then it became very routine because I would go there so much just unloading junk and materials that we'd ripped out. And I remember that year we didn't really go anywhere.
It didn't even feel like we lived in a specific state. It just felt like we lived between the project, the dump, and the hardware store.
Yeah.
And every now and again, I would get on I-15 and remember, oh yeah, we live in Utah now.
And so we were in the exact same place most of that year, but there was tremendous upheaval because we were changing our living environment. Like I said, just redoing the floors, fixing up the walls, fixing up plumbing issues, trying to clean up the yard, the landscaping, and we had new neighbors, a new neighborhood, and
new schools.
And in the midst of this, we had two of our daughters getting married. So we're trying to plan wedding receptions in a place where we're relatively new, and this whole new element is coming into our lives. And so to have this kind of uncertainty doesn't mean you have to be on the go, jumping from country to country, or living on a boat, or living in a van, or something like that. You can have it right where you are. And this, I don't know if this is where you're going to go with this, but I know we've mentioned this on a recent episode. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, his book Flow, he gives the number. What's
4%?
What's the optimal amount of new challenging? 4%. And I think me in particular, and maybe the two of us, we have a tendency to maybe over introduce uncertainty into our lives, and it can be challenging. And I think Mihaly's book talks about how you want to find this sweet spot between being challenged enough so that it's not boring, whatever it is you're doing, whether it could be your professional work, it could be growing in a relationship, it could be, a hobby that you're trying to develop, or, a book that you're reading that's just a little bit beyond your, skill set or your vocabulary, or whatever it is, but just finding something that's a little bit challenging so that it's not boring, but not so challenging that it becomes discouraging and a grind. Mm-hmm. And it's really the Goldilocks principle. You don't want to be too hot, you don't want to be too cold, you want to be just right. And I think, I don't know what 4% looks like on a day-to-day life, but I think I know what 40% looks like,
or
400%. And there have been times in my life when I've experienced 0.4%, and I don't really like that. I don't really like either of those. And so it's kind of just keeping our hand on the dial of how much variety and challenge or novelty do I want in my life, so that it stays interesting. But I still want to have enough familiarity and continuity and security to feel safe as I explore and kind of try these new things. I don't want to feel overwhelmed.
I love it. And I think this is a way, if you're in relationship with somebody, whether it's a spouse or a sibling or a parent or a friend, whoever you're going through life with, these are areas where you can find common ground. These are common core human needs to have certainty. So yeah, we both want certainty. I understand that you want this certainty, and we both need variety. And, here's how I like to get variety, and I see that here's how you like to get variety. And we don't have to be the same to have these needs in common, and it can help us maybe navigate some of that territory. But in yourself, if you're feeling like, hey, you need a little more variety, that's totally normal and human. And you might go get that and then decide you're ready for a little more certainty. Or you may say, wow, we've had so much upheaval in our life recently, and I think I'm just recognizing I need to raise the amount of certainty in my life, and I'm going to establish some routines for now until I'm ready to be seeking a little more variety again.
At the risk at the risk of putting you on the spot, I remember, maybe you can recall this. You had your life so dialed in,
Oh,
where you were like, when I get up, this is what I'm going to do. This is my routine. When I get to the mid morning, this is my routine. When I get to lunchtime, this, you had like these flows that were, sequences, I guess is maybe a better way, for these different parts of your day. And at a certain point, and they were all things that you wanted to do, all things that you enjoyed, but it was so structured that it kind of became uh, unfun. I don't know the right way to say it. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but you told the whole story, so that's it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you could fill it in with some details.
That's basically it. I was just interested in lots of different things, and Eric had said, I can't really keep up with all these different interests you have. And so I thought, he's like, I could be more supportive if I knew what you were really interested in. And so I set up these days in accordance with my values and stuff that matters to me. And after 2 weeks, I felt like I was in a straitjacket and realized like all of those things are things that matter to me, but I also really need opportunities to chase down rabbit holes and mix ideas and get new information that may or may not be related to my primary activities. That was a way that I needed variety. And so I realized, yeah, it's not going to work for me to just have every moment of every day dialed in. And I gave myself permission to have lots of interests again.
And to just go on tangents and rabbit holes and
explore. I'm a curious person. I'm an explorer. I like to explore things academically and intellectually. And when I felt like that was shut down, it seemed like it made sense, but then trying to live that way didn't match, didn't bring me joy. So changed it up. Well, the first two are really easy to see the difference on certainty and variety. We can see those as two sides of a coin or part of a spectrum. But another core need we wanted to address today is significance, and feeling like we have significance to somebody, whether it's somebody who's right here, right now in our life, or somebody that we think we're going to be passing a legacy or a message forward to, or as part of a community. We want to feel like we have a significance. And I think we can find that significance in relationship, in family, in neighborhood, in a community choir. Like, what are some of the places where I've felt significance have been when I have a specific assignment in my faith community, when I have a group of friends that we're raising our children together. When I'm with people who've known me for a long time and they care about what's going on in my life or what happens to me, or they care about what I think. What are some of the ways that you kind of find that you meet that need of significance?
Boy, first of all, there's I think this is a very customized zone for certain people, because for some people, they say, look, I'm single, I live by myself, and I love coming home and being greeted by my dog.
And they feel significant to their dog.
And the dog just shows unconditional love, and just that is so grounding.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that that's one example. We don't have pets, and that's okay. So I can't say that I personally relate to it, but I see it being so valuable in so many of our friends' lives. It can be through a pet. And it can also be, we have some friends here where we live, and they just love supporting and cheering on our kids. And they come to the concerts and the performances and the athletic events. And so, and I guess I'm saying all that as a preference because mine have mostly to do with our family, but I don't think you have to be married or have kids for this to apply.
For sure.
That it is possible to feel significance at whatever stage of life you're in. And so there's that. And I guess in asking the question, it makes me think of this past weekend. It was really a lot about this kind of significance. I mean, we had a baby shower for our daughter. They're due in a couple of months, less than 2 months. And so it was people from our extended family, so your extended family, some members, my brother-in-law and a nephew came, and some of our New York City friends were there, and some of our daughter's friends from church, from when she served a mission, and
our son-in-law's friends.
Yeah, our son-in-law's friends and family came, and we actually had it at the home of some friends of ours from New York. They weren't actually even, it wasn't in New York, it was here in Utah, but they were elsewhere, but we used their home. And so it just felt like this convergence of all kinds of connections that speak to this need of self-worth and mattering to people. And what was really satisfying was to see that our daughter mattered to so many people from different areas of her life, cared about her enough to show up. And we had this fantastic potluck afternoon of just eating and visiting, and it was really rewarding. And so I think just friends, family, community are certainly a big part of that. And I don't know if you want to get into this, the kind of the duality of this, but I feel like a lot of those people just cared about Sarah Jane, whether she's succeeding or failing. They just love her.
Yeah. Well, let's talk into this duality, and then I want to share about our little neighbor boy. So here's a question, like, what's the difference between just feeling worth in yourself and feeling that significance, or feeling like, oh, I have to prove myself? I don't think either of those things are bad, but either of them could be taken too far. So like, I'm really grateful that I don't have to prove myself to my friends, or they don't have to prove themselves to me. But over time, we really have built trust that we can rely on each other and that we care about each other. And in a way, that's just experientially verifying, like, that we are significant to each other, but not if, they can see me on my worst days and my best days and still care about me. What about you? What do you think about this self-worth versus needing to prove yourself?
And I guess I'm thinking about my parents, and we're newly 51, and my parents are
late 70s, early 80s,
just north and south of 80. And I know, Dad, if you're listening, I hope you feel the love in this. I know that for my dad, a lot of his worth comes from feeling productive, and retiring has been, was a challenge for him.
That's for a lot of people.
And I think for men in particular, or people that are in the outside the home workplace, when you step away from a role, when you step away from a salary, when you step away from an organization that you derive a lot of your identity and self-worth from, that can be really tricky. And, my dad just had surgery. Him and my mom are dealing with a handful of health challenges. And the fact that they are, in a time of need doesn't make me love them any less. I don't know that I want to say it makes me love them more, but it makes me want to show up and serve them more. And it's not like, oh, they have to prove themselves, that my dad still has to be productive for me to care about him. That's just simply not true. And the same is the same for my mom. They're not, in a chapter where productivity is going to be their strong suit right now. And yet, I'm excited to go see them and visit with them and take care of them. not because they've proved anything, but because I just care about them. And they've, you know, it's, yes, have they given me so much over the decades of my life. But I don't feel like, oh, I have an obligation or a debt to them. I'm just grateful, and I want to go take care of them and be with them, not because they're proving anything, but just because I love them.
Yeah. And I think in that, you're also speaking to that human need for significance, because it's fine to obtain significance from a job well done or from the friendly relationships you cultivate with your peers and colleagues at work. And when you leave that space, significance is still important. And now you have to find a new place that you want to get that. And I would say it can be something so simple, and which is why I wanted to bring up our little neighbor. These past couple of weeks, we have this little neighbor who's 6 or 7 years old, and he loves to ride his bicycle around and toss it down under the tree in our front yard, and then come knock on the door, and he wants to visit Lily, or he wants to see what we're up to, or he wants to show us his new tricks, or show us like a rock that he found, or like
The coin that he has in his hand.
yeah, a coin or a jump that he can do, or some silly sounds he can make. And um, I think it's mutual, because he likes knowing he has somewhere he can go and kind of share what's special to him. And we love being the place that he comes to, and we'll like stop what we're doing, and we want to see his tricks and see his rock, or, ooh and ah over his shiny dime, and find out, what his plans are for the day or what's going on at his house. And we just feel so special that he wants to share those goings on, just share of himself with us. We're like, oh, he chose to knock on our door, and he wants to tell us what is going on in his life. And it gives a sense of significance. We're not doing anything really for him, except we're sharing attention with each other, and that feels special. It's really fun. It's one of our delightful things about this season warming up, is that he's old enough to go around the block by himself, and he decides to stop at our house.
Yeah. And, our house is getting quieter as our kids move out. And I think that that's another one. I think, if you've been a parent that's been in the home raising kids, as the house gets quieter and quieter and there are fewer kids, or you get down to no kids, I think it's easy to lose your sense of significance that way, when your primary role is as a caregiver or a homemaker, and to not have anybody left to, pack a lunch for school, or to hug and kiss when they get home from school, or to help with their homework. When all those opportunities to love and serve and give go away, how do you then find yourself of sense of self-worth? And so I think, we're obviously talking about our stage of life, and everyone's in their own spot, but you've either been through it or you're going to go through it if you're in relationship with people.
Yeah, no matter how old you are, even for this 6-year-old, you want to feel significant to somebody. And so give yourself permission to have those needs, to recognize them, and to say, like, how am I meeting this? How am I meeting my needs for certainty? How am I meeting, what kind of need do I have for variety? And what kind of needs do I have for significance in a healthy, wholesome way? It's not just trying to get a lot of attention, but even in just this healthy way, like, hey, I'm human and I'm not alone, and people notice me, and it makes a difference, and it matters, and they matter to me. And I think there are actually some ways that the sailing trips we do can play into some of these things. For example, the most obvious one is variety. It's something new and different, something to anticipate and look forward to, something to explore and discover. When you come on one of these sailing trips with us, you'll have some new experiences, and hopefully learn some new things and meet some new people. I think there can be some certainty in that. You'll know, we've done this over and over again. Erik's done this. He has a lot of experience. He knows how to sail the boat. He can teach you what to do. There will be plenty of food, and there will be plans, and you don't have to figure everything out from scratch. And significance in that little temporary community. Sometimes these turn into lifelong, but at least for that week that you're together, everybody means a lot to each other on the boat and helps out. And, you care about how each other are doing, whether you're, you left your flip-flops on the beach and we're, now going to make a trip to go back and retrieve them, or something even more substantial. But we've seen people come on these trips and really take care of each other. One of my favorites was the end of a trip in the British Virgin Islands, where on our last mooring field, we ended up in a race with another boat, and almost the entire crew like pulled together to help us smoothly grab the mooring ball when we came in first. And they were all just like cheering and high-fiving each other and just celebrating together, and they were significant to each other.
Like school spirit.
Yeah, it was kind of like school spirit, team spirit. And there are other times where these friendships extend beyond the sailing trip, and people are watching out for each other as they go through different health challenges or family challenges. Or we had one lady on a trip whose home was in the middle of a natural disaster, and other people were offering her a place to stay, who she had just met on this sailing trip. But when you spend that many hours together, you can bond pretty deeply, and that can give you that sense of significance.
Well, one other thing that before we wrap up, and I know you have some closing thoughts, is that, you talk to a counselor or a therapist or, a mental health specialist, and they'll say, everybody has these needs and we all get them met one way or the other. And there are healthy ways to do it, and then there are unhealthy ways to do it. And we're big proponents, obviously, of doing it the healthy way, because we're proponents of doing it the healthy way, because the unhealthy ways are just, we see it. It's negative behavior. It can be escapism. It can be drugs, alcohol, pornography, whatever kind of behavior is going to help, that need for certainty and safety, or variety, or significance. People join gangs so that they can feel significant. There's all kinds of ways that we seek these. And so we're just trying to talk about it so that we're aware of it, so that you and we are aware of it, and that we're mindful of seeking out the healthy, productive, good ways to meet these needs, because it ends up helping us be in a position to be our best selves for everyone that we care about. And so, finding healthy ways to have certainty, to have variety, to have significance serves everybody, especially you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just even being aware that these are essential needs for a human being, I think is a really good place to start. Because if you're feeling like, oh, I just shouldn't need so much, that you're not gonna get you're not gonna get what you need by pretending that you don't have any needs, or that you shouldn't need these things. So thanks for having this conversation. This is part 1 of the 6 core needs. We will address the final 3, which are connection, growth, and contribution, in our next episode. So for now, just if this has resonated with you and meant something to you, give yourself 5 minutes to write down one area of your life where you are what we call over-indexing on certainty, and maybe one where you're craving more variety. And then ask, what is a small, brave step I could take this week to balance the scales? Or even in that area of significance, so as humans, and here on this podcast, we want to embrace our need both for the comfort and the chaos. What could go right?
Hey guys, it's Eric. Before we wrap up today, I want to give you the sailing update. First of all, Italy is sold out. So if you want to go to Italy, you'll have to go another time. We'll miss you. Arrivederci. But Italy is sold out. However, we are going to be in Greece July 19th through the 26th. We have 1 cabin left. That is for 2 people, so you can fit up to 2 people, or if you want it to yourself, you can book both spots. But we will be sailing out of Athens July 19th through the 26th. We will be in Croatia August 2nd through the 9th. We'll fly in and out of Split. I have one full cabin and I have one solo spot. I don't know. I can't remember if it's a solo guy spot or female spot. But if you're interested in going to Croatia solo, hit me up. We'll see what we can make happen. I do have 1.5 cabins available for that. Cool thing about these trips, they are 2 days longer than our normal trips. So you get these bonus days. So they're kind of an extra value. And they're beautiful, beautiful spots. So let us know. Also, this is kind of a fun one. I'm going to be going to Greece, and there's a lady who sailed with me 4 times now. Her name is Sandy, and she is sponsoring a ladies only trip. Emily and I are going to be hosting this. It's for women only, and there's going to be 2 parts. You can sail with us for a week, and if you want to, you can also join Sandy for a week of spa and fun land-based excursions that she's organizing. You can do one part, just sailing, or you can do both parts. But if we're going to be back in Greece, September 20th through the 27th, we're going to be sailing out of Corfu, which is Western Greece. Beautiful, beautiful spot. So if you're interested in coming on that ladies only trip, let me know. We are then going to be in La Paz, Mexico, the Sea of Cortez, October 20th through the 25th. This is one of the hidden gems of locations that we go to. Most people kind of don't give Mexico its due. It's one of the most stunning spots, and I love it. And we happen to have 2 cabins left. So if you're interested, let me know. We're going to be in Mexico, August 20th through the 25th. We are going to be in the British Virgin Islands, November 10th through the 15th. We have 1 solo female spot. The rest of the boat is already sold out, but if you're a lady traveling solo, you'd be paired up with another lady who's coming by herself. We have 1 solo spot on that trip in the BVI. And then our year wraps up with the Bahamas, December 8th through the 13th. We have 1.5 cabins, meaning 1 full cabin and then a solo spot. And again, I haven't looked up if it's a male or a female spot, but if you're interested, let me know. Would love to have you aboard in the Bahamas. A great way to end 2025. That is the sailing update. And now, before we wrap up entirely, people go sailing with us, and I want you to hear from them directly what kind of experience they have. So here's a sailing takeaway from somebody who's gone sailing with us recently.
I think it's the most exquisite way to unplug and really put yourself in a completely different environment, but have so much fun all at the same time. Let's say like a controlled environment, but yet something that you've never experienced before. It's different than just going on a vacation on land. It's very relaxing too.